Okay, so let's call the meeting to order at 7:02, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless you.
Bless you.
Bless you.
All right. Moment of silent prayer meditation. Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to roll call.
Commissioner Diaz,
Here.
Commissioner Fisher,
Here.
Commissioner Gutierrez, here. Commissioner Mason, Commissioner Munoz, here. Commissioner Velez,
Present.
Commissioner Williams, Vice Chair Molnar,
Here.
Chair Torres,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. We'll move on to oral communications. Seeing none, we'll move on to our consent calendar. This will be our second discussion about updating the park use policy. And this is City Manager, Assistant City Manager.
Chair Torres. So again, thank you for coming tonight. You know, we appreciate the fact that you guys are making time in your busy schedule for us to meet outside of the normal commission meetings. The whole purpose of the park user policy, it's a user policy. You know, we're not saying, we're not dictating how programming. What we're saying is how people get to use the spaces that we have. We're not even looking at, since you brought it up, we're not even looking at fees. That's not what the purpose of this is. Purpose of this is to take a look at what's on the books right now as far as municipal codes and other practices that have been happening throughout the years, and what we need to do to tweak it to either make it better or if it's not broken, don't fix it. So we really want to start with the discussion there before we expand further. The other part of that too is being able to come up with a document that's user-friendly, so that, you know, someone who wants to reserve a space at the park or wants to know what the rules are in the park can put their hands on something or look up something that's all in one spot. So that way they're not having to play like a scavenger hunt sort of a game. So that's what the purpose is. We're not saying that this group gets to use it at this time. That's not what we're saying. We're saying this is how we're going to go about giving access to the public and how we're going to be responsible stewards of the public places that are within and spaces that are within this body's jurisdiction. So we have a PowerPoint. We're going to break this down. We have a PowerPoint tonight to help guide us through this, what we're going to be doing tonight. And then at our next meeting, not necessarily our next regular commission meeting, but our next meeting that we talk about the policy, the user guide, we have what we'll be looking at that time. So if we can just break it up, have those discussions. Mike is an excellent resource. You know, he can, and so is Deb. Definitely, this is the time to kind of ask those questions, pick their brains as far as how some of these rules and regulations are played out, if you will. Go ahead and advance to the next slide. So again, the purpose for updating the park user guide is to simplify the standards and procedures for park and athletic field usage. Go ahead to the next slide. So what you guys have in front of you tonight is a working draft. What we put together are the general park usage rules, usage rules for the dog park, for the splash pad, for the skate park, violations and penalties, general athletic field reservations and use. And then, of course, we also brought forward the park amenities chart, which was Commissioner Torres' suggestion. So these are, again, this is just a guide of what we're going to be discussing tonight. Go ahead and advance to the next slide. So if you take a look onto the working draft, pages 1 starting off with where it says at the very top, conduct in public parks and public places, and then the pages that go through in order.
I think it just starts at 7, but maybe.
And this is how it's, okay. So again, this is what is currently on the books as far as the municipal code goes. This also gives us an opportunity, if there are things that are in our ordinance that we need to update, we can start having those conversations with the attorney's office and making recommendations if necessary. We can go one by one, or if there's something that you have a question on, we can answer that.
I would suggest just to have it structured, probably one by one, go through it.
Okay.
And if it's nothing to comment on, then we don't waste more than a few seconds on it, just move on.
I think the definitions are pretty straightforward. Would you like to go through each definition one by one, or we're comfortable with how they're written? Okay, so we'll go to the next page.
One question I had, so the definitions are those based on the...
Those are based on what's in the municipal code.
Okay, so they're attached to, okay.
And again, this isn't necessarily going to be the format. This is just a working draft. A final product that would be presented to the community would be, your final draft would be prettier, if you will. This is just for the purposes of these conversations and for us to work through how it's being laid out.
The definitions being tied to the municipal code are kind of vetted.
These are the
like legally, right? Where,
yes, and these are the exact word for word of what's in the municipal code
perfect.
as far as the definitions are concerned.
All right. Okay, so that's definitions.
So if you go right after definitions, if you start with unlawful acts, and that's actually the way that the municipal code calls it out, is unlawful acts. And perhaps in a user guide, we don't necessarily need to use the word unlawful act. You know, we can look at something like park regulations or general park regulations, something a little bit softer, but I wanted to provide for you what was actually in the municipal code. And a lot of these are just your basic, what you do when you're a patron in the park and what you're not supposed to do when you're a park patron.
So I know the most recent unlawful act as far as parks was the smoking, which passed back in 2018.
Was it 17 or 18,
17.
somewhere around there?
As far as regulations go, that's the most recent. So, is that in here?
Yeah. L.
Cal?
Did you find it?
Item L.
L.
Yeah.
In smoking, do we need to add vaping or is that another, I don't see it.
In the definition on the other page.
Does it say that?
Yeah, it says battery.
It calls out,
operated.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It comes up to the top. Okay, I see it.
Okay, so again, is this one based on the ordinance that was passed? Or is it something that had been in there prior? Because I know that we had discussed smoking areas, right? And then that was nixed. Because the original direction from the council was to have smoking areas within the park. And I think you kind of try to identify some at some point, right? But then that was gone, so it's completely banned entirely in the park.
That's
So
correct.
do we still need that at the end?
What we'll do is we'll take a
Smoking
look.
area?
We'll take a look at what was passed that day, the language what was passed back in 2018. So obviously, the municipal code hasn't been updated, so it needs to be updated if necessary. So we'll take a look to see what the language was.
Okay. then another comment, are we getting input like from staff? Like just day-to-day staff or contractors? The only reason I ask is because there might be stuff that's going on that's not even listed in these unlawful acts. So then when, say, we approach that issue, there's no way for us to point to whatever that act is, right? So that would be something that I guess would be a more broad comment to see if we could get any sort of feedback from staff and see if there's anything that should be put in here that's going on that's not.
You know, I think the biggest concern or complaint that we have in parks the homeless.
Yeah, I mean, that's
And
why I was
that's-
a mistake.
Yeah, and that's not,
You know, the first thing it goes on here is the loitering and being in the park after hours, but there's, the rulings in Idaho and so many things that change that. To be honest with you, most of these rules are spot on. We talk daily, but the major issue is the loitering in parks after hours, which PD, community services, code enforcement are all wrestling with. And, obviously our code enforcement, or our muni code isn't going to trump the law, so those are all things we're dealing with, but that is the main
I agree.
issue.
And then, did we ever, I remember talking about park hours, I think that came up at some point, right? We were trying to, so then I would assume that if we did modify park hours, then that would need to be reflected in here. Because then after a certain time, then that would technically be unlawful. But right now, it's from dusk till dawn, or?
Well, parks are listed dusk till dawn, but there's lighting regulations in the muni code about when lights can come on, and to be frank, we push it. All these push it.
When lights can come on, meaning?
Like, they're supposed to be out by a certain time, certain areas, certain weekends you can use fields, certain weekends you can't. There's things stipulated in the muni code, and off the top of my head, I'm not recalling exactly what those times are, but like, I think some parks are 9:30, some are 10, and as leagues have gotten more impacted, games have gotten bigger, we've stretched that
Yeah,
some.
because this is dusk, and the parks will not be able to close at this point.
Yeah.
So we will see
Yeah.
people in the parks later and later.
That's what we have it posted, but that is not typically when the parks close because of usage.
If we set the hours, do we have security for after hours to make sure that homeless or others?
We do not have security for
Well, how
that.
do you control it? How could you control it?
Well, we don't have the complete answer for that. I mean, we don't know the complete answer. What I'll tell you is activity is the best thing. An active park deters that stuff. We really have issues at the parks when it's secluded, not being utilized doing that. But when you have an active league there, things going on, and it's someone to report to PD for them to come out, it works much better. I think Commissioner Gutierrez can attest that, with Pony, when the league's going, the issues are fine. It's just when they shut down for the winter break or their summer break is when the issues start, so.
Do you, like the restrooms, are they locked after hours or are they open?
The restrooms are locked after hours. We have a contractor that opens and closes our restrooms, and there's 2 crews, and they start on each side of the town, and they work their way out and back. Leagues are responsible for have their own keys, and they're responsible for locking the restrooms if they're gonna have games that run late. It'd be very difficult for us to lock everything up if we waited until everybody locked up at 11. So when it comes to practices and games, the reason the bathrooms are posted closed at dusk is because that's when we start closing park bathrooms, depending on what activity is going in the field. But after dusk, it's the league or the user group that is responsible for the bathroom.
And it used to be the police would control the
that's-
parks,
yeah.
but they run a skeleton crew.
Yeah.
So on Sundays at Walmart, there's a church group that comes with a loudspeaker, and they have the.
That is not an authorized group. I mean,
Oh,
that
well,
I'm
that's
aware
what
of.
I'm just like, so like this,
It says they have to get a
unlawful
permit.
act. I mean,
Yeah,
To
technically you have to have a
it
permit to use our
added
facilities,
another
and that's somebody using the
Oh,
field
it's
without our
the same.
knowledge.
Oh, so
You're
they're on
right,
the
that
park,
helps.
so they're
That helps
on
me
the
too.
park side, and they set up chairs, and they have.
Organized event needs to come through the city, be permitted, there's fees and things for that and processes for that. There can be fee waivers that can go through Roxanne and then higher up the chain and council can approve things, but on a daily, we don't allow gathering in fields. It's very similar to practicing on a field. You could take your daughter to go play on our field and play catch and do those things, but the second you're organized, there's more requirements. We need insurance. There's cost to that. So all those
The
things.
risk goes
Yeah.
up.
So this makes it unlawful to take a PA system and walk through the park and
Right.
announce,
Without a permit.
yeah, without a permit. So announce whatever they announce.
So they have like they sing and they set up chairs.
They probably have church.
Right.
We'll check in. I'm not familiar with that group. I'll check in with community services to see if they have a permit in doing that.
They're
And
not
then
bothering, I
we'll
mean, I don't think
address.
they're bothering anything, like with this.
There's still
with
liability,
this
there's still
being
rules
a
for it.
lawful act, if
Well, and what we would want to do, we're not looking to come down on people.
Right.
We're just looking to say, hey, we want to know who's out here. You know, here's the application. You know, here's the
Mhm.
information that you need. Here's what you need to file so that everything can be in compliance. That's really what we want to do.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not a tax law. And I know you
No,
weren't. I totally
no,
know
I
you
just
weren't.
like- I just want to make sure. that
Yeah, no, I
just
totally know you
FYI,
weren't.
guys.
And then and Deb let me know that that she has received that from time to time. She has heard about that in the past. So knowing that they're still there, we'll make sure that we can make those connections and make sure that we get them in compliance. That's all.
Okay.
That's all we want to do. Yeah, we weren't taking you telling on anyone.
Oh,
so
no.
Yeah, I know you weren't.
But what drives me crazy are those announcing when the baseball games are going on. You know how they have an app now where they can, like, you know, batter or whatever is coming up. That drives me crazy. At the baseball park.
Oh, like the app.
Our teams.
Oh, like they have the game changer
each have
going.
their little PA system.
Oh, I
that
got you.
announces, like, you
Their
know, when you're-
walk-up
right,
songs
Their
and
walk-up
stuff,
song, there you
yeah.
go. That, it
All the
drives me crazy.
Yeah, the sports classes. Like
I wish
other
they
places
would
have
do
banned
that.
them. Yeah.
Really?
I mean, it's like, you know, 9 o'clock games, you know, I'm surprised the residents will saying.
Okay. So for unlawful acts, I think maybe, I guess making a note about potentially updating it based on times, if we change that. Maybe looking at how we can update the unlawful acts to address homelessness, even though, you know, it's a sensitive issue, but I don't know how old these unlawful act definitions or rules are.
I
But
mean,
I know that the law on homelessness and the way we address it is constantly evolving, but
we can ask the question.
Yeah, we're bringing this to the commission, but something I would suggest, and something that I talk to Roxanne about regularly is, for example, the Muni Code now I think has certain times stated for certain parks. You can change the times, but remember, once that happens, it's finite. And we've pushed things now, you know, we've gone later, and times seem to, like, you know, what sensitive issues in the past. When I first started here 20 years ago, I was called regularly about lights. I couldn't tell you the last time I got called about lights. So I would just recommend that whatever direction we go, whether we state it, you know, if it's there, it's letter of the law. So sometimes, you know, we want to have rules, keep everything in place, but if we know leagues are going to run late, or there's a possibility they're going to run late, give some sort of flexibility so you're not locking yourself completely down. So I don't know if that's making sense or not, but that's just a recommendation I have.
yeah, that makes sense. Because I know that, like, say for example, when the parks are closed, right, or after the sun's went down, that the rules for like not being at the park, do they still apply to someone who's homeless in there? Can we still remove them?
No.
There's
You have
different
to
laws
have
for
a
that.
That's what I'm trying to get at. So then if we have these unlawful acts, it should address what we can't do, right? Homelessness.
That being stated, as far as the loitering in the park, I definitely think you should leave the language there. Currently now, I'm not an expert on the laws, you know, the police department is, and the things that we've been coached and taught, you know, there are rules against them just removing somebody once they
Right.
set up shop. But I don't know the extent of those laws. I would not remove it from here, because if things do change, I definitely would want to have this back to fall, you know, this to fall back on.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just was trying to I was trying to just reason in my head how if we adopt, say, this new document, and then it has unlawful acts that are contrary to what is allowed, like as far as dealing with the people experiencing homelessness, whether that would be an issue or not.
Well, it is an issue. I mean, it definitely is an issue, and I'm sure
Yeah.
your Chair Torres, I don't have the answer to that question, you know, I mean, it's something, we have laws that say that you can't do that, and the whole country's been overturned.
Right.
So I don't know how to get to the bottom of that issue.
Yeah.
Again, I would make a recommendation to leave it, because we want to abide by it as much as we can. Do you have any other, I mean, you good with that, Roxanne? Anything else you want to add?
Don't have anything else.
So maybe at some point, this will be looked at by the city attorney, right? So maybe that would be a question for him.
Well, and I know, you know, there's some other areas too that need to be updated just based on laws that have been passed when it comes to vendors and individuals selling food in the park and what can and cannot happen anymore. So
Yeah,
that's all been updated.
Yeah.
So that tells me too that the municipal code needs to reflect that, the new laws as well.
Yeah, especially if we're adopting a new document.
Exactly.
Does the city council also has to approve?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so what we
Once
do,
we draft this, or once we okay this goes to the city council?
once we okay this, we're gonna do a workshop with the community so the community is aware, because they may have feedback too. And then from there, it would go to city council.
I know that's what they did when they drafted this law.
Yeah, so that's what we would do.
We would brought it to the front of the community.
Yeah. Yes. And you want to do that because you want to make sure that they're aware, and they may have thoughts and considerations that no one here has thought of yet, and input. But we want to get it to a point. It's still a draft. It's going to be a working draft until the city council approves it. But we want to get it to that point.
I just have a comment on the unhoused and the homeless issue when they create their comfortable encampments in the park. And I know in some cities the land where a lot of encampments happen are not designated as city parks. So they're designated as a regular park where different rules apply, and they're allowed overnight camping sometimes or things like that. And that's in some cities with very large parks that were designated that way ages ago, and you can't really change that. But I think in the parks here in the city, I don't believe any of them are designated as state parks where camping can be allowed.
The only park that we have where camping is allowed is Gulfster.
Okay.
There's a campground on the north side, not on the north, the top of Gulfster Park. There, you know, it used to be referred to as the Boy Scout campground, and that is something that we have issued permits for usage to, I believe it's Campers of America, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, things of that nature. But other than that, I do not believe we have a park where overnight camping is allowed.
Okay, so with that said, then perhaps the language could be a little bit updated to not necessarily speak directly to homeless or directly to encampments, but in a way where we already have designated operating hours. And so within that, anything that looks like a structure, I mean, this is just very general language, outside of the operating hours could be considered trespassing, and in which case, for this city, absent of a park patrol at night, it would give maybe our law enforcement an opportunity to use an enforcement tool to let them know that you can't put a tent up or any type of living structure where you're going to spend the night, and it's trespassing.
You know, I've seen where there are cities that have no overnight camping. They just say that.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it. Another way to do it, I've seen where they've called out, what does it say? No loitering where children congregate. That's
Right.
another one that you can do too. Those are all considerations.
So I think just trying to find that language that doesn't box us in or locks us into, certain situations that arise. If we use language that's broad enough where we talk about, let's say even the evangelists over at Walmarado Park, they do set up shop, they do have a structure, and without a permit, it kind of looks like they're trespassing, because they are there almost every day. They're there in the morning, they're there midday, so I don't know, something general.
Yeah, they should comply.
I don't want to speak out of turn on this, but my understanding is from the case in Boise for the homeless, and like I said, I can't reference, but there was a case in Boise where once they set up shop, that's the problem, and it was
Yeah.
ruled that every person should have a designated area to stay. So once they set up shop, that's the problem. The
Right.
laws are in our favor. My understanding is the laws are in our favor if they have not set up shop.
Right.
And once they set up shop, you have to notice them. They have time. I believe it's we give them 24 hours, but if the shop is set up, they have to be noticed, and there's laws for that.
So my thought right now is, because we have other notes anyways that we need to go back to the city attorney's office just to update, period. But my thought is I will ask for suggested language to that effect.
Okay.
They review so many more city municipal codes, and they see a lot. So they may have come across a city where they have something like that seems to be working, and they'll be able to give us that feedback. So I'm going to make a note to that.
Okay.
I'm just going to ask for language.
And to the entire body, my suggestion would be to put all the language in there.
Mhm.
That's protect ourselves as many ways as we can.
For that, do you need signs to put up signs?
We have park rule signs, and we could definitely add them. It wouldn't hurt. I mean, obviously, signage is part of that. So having signage up would be a good thing. Whether you need signs, whether they are, what that allows you to do. I don't know if posting one way or the other changes the Muni code. I'm not positive on that.
The Muni code does have specifications for signs for staff and how they're supposed to be put up. I did not include that in this document, and the reason I didn't is because that isn't part of a user coming in. They're not going to need to know how a sign is posted. So that's why that's not in there, but there are specifics as far as posting signs and to be in compliance for the staff.
And currently in our park, there are park rules signs with not every rule, but rules from the Muni code that reference the sections of the Muni code that relate to it. Those are up in parks now. They are old. They are a little small, hard to see. The skate park signs are a little.
They're a little tired.
They're a little tired, but we have had signage and are looking into new signage as well.
And working on the no smoking signage as well. As a separate
So is
sign.
that part of what we want to also accomplish is, I'm thinking of the parks that I've visited, and if our signs are a little tired looking, or they're not visible, or let's say somebody who is going to try to commit an illegal act or not be in conformance with not disturbing the peaceful use of the park, then part of this should also include a big upgrade on the signs then.
Yeah, and that would really be, once any of those updates to municipal code take place, once this is in place, that would be when that would happen. So yes, that would be part of that process.
Okay.
It's a process. Yes.
So for enforcement, are signs required?
For code enforcement, it helps them. It helps them because when they're on the spot and they have to either ask someone to comply, or if they need to cite someone, it is a lot easier for them to be able to point to a sign as opposed to having to pull it up and say, look, this is what it is, because the argument can always be, well, I didn't know.
Right.
I didn't see, I wasn't aware. And it's a fair statement. So it's an aid, it helps them. We want to help our partners, all, you know, our colleagues in the city. So, yes.
Because I think on some of these, it specifically states that if signs are posted, and then in some,
They are not.
it doesn't.
Yeah, it's not consistent.
So then that would be another comment, just to clean that up and try to see if we could have some consistency, because I might be wrong, but I think for the smoking, they needed to be posted in order for it to be enforced.
They have signs, but they're not, there's only one at each park right now, and they're trying to put them at each entrance to the park.
I know what you're saying. At least I think I'm following you. What it is if you have a sign posted, it has to reference the municipal code.
Yeah.
That's what you're
Yes,
saying.
otherwise they'll ignore it.
Yeah, it's null and void.
And I think it has to say, no parking, vehicle code, whatever.
Whatever it is, in order to, yes, it has to say it if you have a sign.
So the ones I noticed were P, Q, R. I don't know, I'm not gonna talk at length, but if you wanna circle P, Q, and R, those are the ones that we're kind of talking about vending and all that, right?
Correct.
If vendors are in there soliciting. And then R is about like if people are using the playing baseball in an open field or soccer where they're not supposed to.
You know what a good example of this is? If you go to Palmview Park, there's a sign that says no golf, something to that effect. That's a good example of this. And that's why where it references, or in any area where the director has posted signs prohibiting such activities. So that, if you're interested in what that looks like, Palmview is a good example.
Okay. So yeah, that's another one of those signs versus no signs, so.
There's a section in here that the department has certain types of administrative authority, and some of that does come with posting signs. So there are additional rules that right now that allows for some flexibility, that if we see that there's a problem in a certain park, that we can implement it and sign it accordingly. So that's why that's there. But we could definitely take a look through again.
Perfect. And then the last one, S, it deals with dogs. So I don't know, cats.
Cats are not licensed.
So I don't know if that needs to reflect the next section, dog park rules and regulations somehow. Like, I would assume that these rules might be a little different at Del Norte. So
we'll take a look at S and how it corresponds with the dog park rules and
Yeah.
regulations, is what I'm hearing.
yeah,
And cats, they're not licensed.
We'll take a look at that as well.
Yeah, it's worded kind of funny in that respect.
Yeah.
Well, the dog park states animals other than dogs are not permitted, so it kind of excludes
Yeah,
everything
but
else.
S,
Yeah.
but S says cats. But I guess it, yeah.
you can't control it.
You can't,
You just can't.
Unless they're on the
Well, you can't control a cat, but you know, there are individuals who love feeding feral cats.
that's true.
And,
And it creates,
well, don't do it at the park.
I do it in my backyard.
And I have seen that, not recently, but in the past. You have individuals who do hang out at the parks and,
They do, it's an issue.
yeah.
All right, we'll move on to dog park regulations. There's an error in the very first one.
yeah. At one time, we caught it.
Line.
Line, we caught it.
Yeah, one line, only one though.
Cross your L.
So then there's no more than 3 dogs per
Per line. I'm kidding.
Yeah, so
person?
so right now, what it says in the muni code is no more than 3 dogs per person are allowed in the park at one time.
Okay.
I think that that's in line with what you can have in your home also.
Yeah, true. But
Yeah.
what about a dog walker?
They have to walk 3 at a time,
Well, some of them
so
walk
they don't
more,
lose control.
seen more,
Does the muni code, does the
So-
muni code say you can only have 3 dogs, or is that
Yes.
law?
I think it's the city of West
Oh,
Covina.
okay.
Yeah, muni code states
so.
that.
Yeah, combination of 3.
Learn something every day.
So this is
Well,
what
it
is,
actually says at one line.
At one line.
Yeah,
When I look in the bylaws for the condos, you can only have 3.
Or when it was converted, the word.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe when it was converted.
How about Jay? Are we gonna ask,
Or it could
go
say
around
you can have
asking
as
people?
many as you want if they're licensed.
Go ahead, sir.
How about Jay? Are we gonna go ask dog owners for their dog's medical records?
That's a good question.
And
We're
also,
not.
Al, okay, how are you gonna control that?
Those are all, that's a fair
You
question.
should erase those.
Well,
the, okay, so yeah, I used to be a dog owner.
Yeah.
So I remember looking at that sign that's there with all the rules. There's so many rules, right? I don't think anyone's reading those. Maybe people who are really concerned, but that is a good point because, you know,
But
the
I think
rules.
it's important though, because if there's a bite, then there's another avenue. If your dog bites somebody, there's another avenue to follow. You know, your dog was in the park, it wasn't, you
Oh,
weren't
yeah.
following this, you didn't do
Oh,
this,
yeah.
you didn't do that.
I completely
That would-
agree. So
that
that's
would
what
be
I'm trying to
good.
see, if there's any way where we could focus on how to address issues that are really important, right? Biting,
Aggressive dogs.
because some of them are just unenforceable, to be honest. And
I
there's-
think that's why you have to have a leash on your dog.
Not in
Not
the dog park. In the dog park, no leash.
That's
No,
free.
not inside, but,
Oh, yeah, outside,
You're
yeah,
but
supposed to
outside,
sure.
outside.
yeah. So what was the one you said, Al?
With L, because that's the barking.
My dog, I have a little Pomeranian, and, you know, I call him the best alarm a house can ever have.
yeah.
Because you get near my house, even in the cul-de-sac, you get near my house, he goes crazy,
He's doing
which I like
He's doing
it.
his job.
Yeah, he's doing his
Doing
job.
his job.
You know, he lets us know, hey, if coyotes come around, anybody comes around, he lets us know, hey, somebody is, you know, 25 feet away from us. Which I like that, but you can't control it.
No, you can't.
No, you can't control Mark. I mean, you can do some things, but
Yeah.
Is there any way we could change that to still address barking but not necessarily restrict it?
What I'll do is the same thing, like what we're doing with the language that Commissioner Munoz had requested. We can ask what other types of language that the attorney's office had seen in other dog parks.
Because I know at some point that school next to the dog park may eventually become housing. So you might have homes right next to the dog park, depending on what they do at that site. So then in that case, like if there's a dog just constantly barking, right? They might need to have some teeth to let the owner know, hey, you know, you might want to address your dog, but I don't know if it can be worded differently to not necessarily make it a violation of like a law or regulation.
You can't tell a dog not to bark.
I do all the time.
Yeah. Well, you can't control it at some point.
You
You
know,
can.
He doesn't listen, but.
Yeah, you go. You can, but you can't.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna bark,
Yeah.
dogs are gonna bark.
They don't understand indoor voices.
No, not at all.
I don't know, I'm not a dog owner, but I used to be a dog owner, and I'm around dogs all the time, they're not my dogs. But I think sometimes, just my observation, when I'm enjoying a park or a public space and someone has a dog and it is excessively barking, usually it's kind of an alert, like you look at the dog, you look at the owner, you look at the potential for how the owner is controlling the dog. And I think it's probably very generic to have that in there, because oftentimes I have observed this, where individuals will go up to a person who owns a dog that's barking a lot. And just the other day I saw this over at the park. The dog owner was having a little bit of trouble moving the dog away from where all of the activity was going on. Parents had their little kids with them and moved their kids away, and then one of the males came over to the guy and said, "Hey, get your dog under control. The barking is scaring our kids." So it's just one of those respectful things that it gives you a little bit of muscle maybe to check somebody about their dog, or it alerts you actually if they're excessively barking.
Who's gonna be there?
Yeah, well, it's, if you're in the park or a dog park, it gives you a little bit of, you know, a little bit of muscle, I suppose, to be able to say, you know, please control your dog.
I would
The
like to
barking,
see
you
people
know.
do that on their own,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Oh, they don't.
Respect for others. I mean, we can't be there to police them.
No.
Nobody should be.
Yeah. But if their excessive dog barking is disrupting, again, the peaceful enjoyment of other people in a dog park, then, you know, I think it's benign enough that, I don't know, it's just my opinion.
I can tell you, I've never heard that issue. I mean, I haven't heard that complaint.
When they're out
It's been there for 12
frolicking,
years
they're
now.
having fun. The dogs are probably not barking.
People's perception of what controlling their dog and what their dog should be able to do, spaying and neutering has always been a big issue, but the barking I have not,
Yeah.
never come across
Well, the
anything.
spay neutering kind of goes with the shots too, and everything. Who's going to be there to check off the list to make sure they can go in the dog park?
Well, there's not a list to check off, but whoever our animal control provider is, whether it be LA County, like currently it's LA County or it's Inland Valley Humane Society, they have gone out and checked and done that before.
Good.
Doesn't happen, I can't sit here and tell you how often or whatever, but it has happened in the past.
For letter P, are we able to check on that as well, that language? Because I know that when the dog park was originally put in, it has, I think it might still be there, it has a big sign that says no smoking in the dog park.
That's the sign where we put the no smoking sign there.
Are you talking about Pete?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a big sign
Your
that
dog
says
park.
no smoking in the dog park. The only reason I know that this is an issue is because it happened to me. There was a gentleman like outside of the dog park, right at the gate smoking. And I was like, hey, there's no smoking in the park, but he was like, oh, it just says not in the dog park. So it wasn't consistent with the rest of the
Area.
area. So maybe in this one we could say no smoking or
Within 500 feet of the dog park?
no,
Not
at
in
any
the park
park.
at all.
Yeah,
At any park.
Yeah.
But aren't we designating a spot in the park for smoking?
Mm-mm.
No, okay, good.
So the smoking and alcohol are prohibited in all parks, including the dog park, something to that effect.
You know, at one time there, whether the city council did designate smoking areas. So, I don't know, it didn't last, or did it?
They were considering
There's a
it.
smoking
They
ordinance.
didn't
passed
consider,
that.
they actually did it.
No, they just were considering
Was
it.
there, that's it. It's actually done.
Oh, Hereford?
Yeah.
No, it was still allowed. Smoking was allowed in the parks up until 2018.
Okay. I
Yeah,
thought that was a designated area.
no. It was only, you couldn't smoke within 25 feet of the playground. That was the only rule. And
Can I'm sorry, on the smoking and then statement you made that the dog park user his behavior should be consistent with all the other park rules. I think on item Q, it says users must obey all other park rules. Maybe that should go first, up on top.
yeah. For training, why are we prohibiting that? It's a, you guys.
It's an actual business.
It's approved, if it's approved by the city, so we could offer a class there.
So what's the harm in having someone doing training?
It's a business.
Well, it
Just like
says
organize-
unless
anything
approved by the
organized
city.
So
Well,
then
it's
it's-
commercial or
so what's a
professional. If you
professional
want to
dog
train
trainer
your
or
own dog,
person?
that's fine.
So then as long as they're not charging for it.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, I haven't dealt with that issue either, but I think it's very similar to the baseball. If I'm there with my dog and I'm training my dog, that's one thing, but if I'm there and I've got 5 dogs lined up and I'm training them all, that's a different issue, whether money's exchanged or not. There's still liability, there's still issues with that.
Okay.
Can we talk about M for a minute?
Yeah.
So, I go in the park with my coffee, but if I did that according to this, it's illegal.
Yeah, is it an issue?
Is it an issue?
No, I know what I'm saying, it's like, have people,
I don't know.
It's a mixed bag. I've
People go there all the time.
I've engaged with the dog park community,
uh-huh.
and it's a mixed bag.
They can't deny you.
I can't get
An answer.
to 2 sides to agree or 4 sides to agree sometimes.
What's
So
the disagreement?
you'll talk to people and they'll just be like, no food, nothing in here. They're very strict about it. And then others are like, oh, you know, it's okay, we can
I
bring
go in
food
there
and
with my
drinks.
coffee all the time.
There's
You
very
can't agree on
particular
water
dog
bowls.
owners, and then there's very lenient dog owners.
Right.
Water bowls is a big issue. Some people want a water bowl there because the water fountain for the dogs is outside the park and they want a water bowl there. But half of them are adamant that, hey, my dog can get sick, I don't want to drink out of another dog's bowl.
Yeah.
So we take them away, they can put it right back. It's a constant battle. So we're hoping the next round, our solution will be to put a water fountain for each dog park inside, so there is no question of that.
It's the same thing. It's the same germs if they lick out of a bowl or off of
Well,
a
you're
faucet.
correct. You were correct.
It's actually the
100%.
same thing.
Bring your spray.
Well, at least for the human
Let's
drinks
put
and
some,
food,
let's put some sanitizer on
it's,
it.
it's almost common for every single person in the dog park to have a thermos or a bottle
With
of
a
water.
little bowl, yeah.
We'll
No,
be
no,
taking
for
precautions.
themselves.
Oh, for themselves.
They'll have
Sure.
their drink on the table.
You
And
can't
So
deny water.
to Commissioner Fisher's point, you know, people still bring in coffee, you still bring in your snacks, you still bring in. So is that rule a necessary rule? To Chair Torres's point, you can't get people to agree on it. Some people are okay
I would
with it, some
leave it,
people are not.
I would leave it, but reimagine it. You know, like try to say, well, if there's someone in there throwing snacks to all the dogs, yeah, they shouldn't do that because they're gonna
Right,
fight.
I agree with the snacks because
But-
it could cause a dog fight. You're
Yeah.
throwing snacks out there and for your
So
dog.
maybe the language, right, like the use of maybe.
But if the dogs want my
excessive.
coffee, I'll be a little wired, but.
Something like excessive or that may cause injury or that may cause, you know, I'm not an attorney, but something that could be worded better.
And
that-
I didn't see it, but does it says enter at your own risk?
I don't think so.
If you're training your dog too, wouldn't treats be a part of that?
Yeah, so just look, maybe
So
the
I
attorney
think we look the
can
other
can
way.
come up with something that's a little bit,
We're gonna ask.
Yeah, I like,
Look the other
I put
way.
it all for.
Yeah,
and
we're
then the
gonna
last
ask.
one,
Enter at your own
is-
risk? I think you should enter in the dog
Okay,
park at your
yeah.
own risk. I don't know what the lawyer would say. It doesn't matter.
I'm sorry,
Hold on, hold on.
Commissioner Fisher's point, you know, I think you're absolutely
Yeah.
correct. Like, we could leave that language there, but then to protect the city
And for sure.
and to protect the user, you pop a sign up there that says, the city is not
You're
this-
assuming all risks.
Yeah. Including feeding an animal that you should not have necessarily brought snacks for, but then you fed it and it bit you, but the city is not responsible,
Yeah.
nor is, whoever else somebody might be thinking of suing, because you enter at your own risk, and by that, you release the city of any potential liability
Maybe.
at any level, whether it's a child or the dog bite,
How many occurrences do we have of that now?
I mean, what?
How many occurrences of lawsuits or problems with drinks or treats or anything?
I
Does it
don't know any
happen?
offhand, and I just.
Because what we're doing here, those people are not gonna see most likely. And life will go on just as it has. And if there's no problem, there's no problem.
I have not heard any complaints either. I
Yeah,
mean, Deb is probably the best person.
There's
to
no
confirm
history
that.
of any sort of litigation tied to the dog park?
No, or requests we received.
I want to say maybe a couple bites, but whoever the provider is at that time is the one that, documents and keeps track of that. But in the few years, if it was 3 or 4, I would be surprised.
And then the other thought I had was to visit or take a look at other dog park regulations. Maybe they can kind of give us direction, especially for newer dog parks, maybe Almonte's.
That's their problem.
Because I know that one is, what, a few years old, right?
It's fairly new.
So maybe they have updated rules.
Or somebody like Sandinas who has established rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I say your name on that? I'm not sure.
Then the last one, the city reserves the right to refuse patron access.
That means they can lock the gate
That's
on
another
you.
policing problem.
Okay, so that's what that means, right? So not necessarily like you can't use it. It's more like we're closing it.
Because we need to maintain.
Yeah, they're
exactly,
asking
right.
for maintenance.
Well,
Or
we're
there's
not-
an emergency.
That doesn't give us the right to be like, you can't use it, right? Okay.
Not necessarily for an individual, it's more for maintenance purposes.
Or an emergency
Or
or something.
emergency, yeah.
So maybe add that? Because I think it's important.
Back to what we were talking about, the liability, I kind of looked it up in the government code about public entities and dog parks. And the law says that if we own and operate a dog park, that most cities are not held liable for injury or death of a person or pet resulting solely from the actions of a dog in the dog park. So it's already a law established throughout. Maybe some people might need to be reminded.
I think it's a good point. That way, calling it out is a good point.
Yeah, just call it out.
Or whatever law.
Because dog parks are relatively new, right? Like last,
10 or 12 years old.
Yeah, they started getting popular about, a decade ago, maybe more. All right, splash pad rules and regulations.
That's scary.
So, letter C, diapers are not allowed. So that might need to be tightened up, either removed.
What about
or-
those
Why?
swim?
Yeah, there's swim diapers.
Swimmers.
Swimmers, all that stuff is bad for the splash pad. Remember, it's only 4,000 gallons of water. You start throwing the chemical and all the stuff that expands from that, the thing shuts down. It's hard enough to keep running as it is.
So no
But what
swim.
I'm saying is
no
there's
swimmers.
diapers that are for swimming.
Yeah.
You know what swimmers
Yeah.
are, right?
Yes. I know what swimmers are, yes. No swimmers as well.
Those are, okay. All right.
Clothes, you know what, the thing is, even, it's such a little amount of water. You go in there fully clothed, that's a problem. You have detergents, everything in your clothes. It's
Right.
such a small amount of water that throws the chemical off.
Mhm.
Throw the chemical off, it shuts down. It's time to catch up. It does that. So,
Is it electronically metered?
it's, yes, there's controllers on it and they monitor the pH and the acid, the chlorine and the pH and all
It's
those
the same way
issues.
they would a pool.
Yeah, but
It's not electronic.
Yes, but a pool's much bigger.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, it's much easier to control a bigger body of water. In 4,000 gallons of water, if I take a cup of chlorine and put it in there, that will drastically change the levels. A pool, 300,000 gallons, I can pour 20 gallons in and it's gonna take a while to notice. So if you're in there, diapers, fully clothed, animals, all those things, it all changes it very drastically and there's an issue with that. And keeping it running, I mean, splash pads are great, kids love them, but 150 kids and 4,000 gallons of water, you know, and it's recycled too, so.
Right.
So diapers, we should probably put swimmers.
Yes,
because
clarify
that's-
swimmers as
yeah,
well.
Yeah.
Because that's what they use now. They can't go into pools unless they have swimmers on. So they may think that, oh, if I put a swimmer on my kid, it's okay.
You know, and to backtrack, like I said, that's me talking in the sense of keeping the splash pad running. It's a difficult thing. So that's me talking and trying to keep it up and the community being able to use it.
Where's the
At Del Norte, next to the dog park.
Is it gonna be ready for the summer?
Should be ready next Wednesday. I'm going there next Wednesday. I finally got all the parts I needed. I scheduled everything there. Parts, controls.
This is probably not a good idea, but
Right
I'll
there.
just mention it. So then, I know how we
That's ours.
rent
I've never seen it.
the patio or the shelters, the picnic shelters. Has that ever been considered for the
I
splash
think we
pad?
dog park.
To cover it?
No, to rent it out.
Where the airplane is at.
Yeah, they're pin
I have not been approached to do that, haven't heard anything. It would be very, very difficult to
Right.
control.
That's what I
For
figured.
that pavilion by the splash pad? That's
Yeah,
the
because
only one we don't rent out there.
I was thinking it could generate revenue to kind of address like the ongoing maintenance stuff. And a lot of the times it's not being used. But
I would tell you
There's no
that
demand for it.
I would not feel comfortable renting it because it's temperamental.
Yeah.
All splash pads, I mean, if you, splash pads are temperamental.
Yeah.
And then being in the middle of, being in a park that's not manned, that's very difficult.
Right,
Then
yeah.
you have a child's birthday that they reserve that space, and what are you gonna do if something
Yeah.
is malfunctioning? You're gonna, yeah.
On our pavilions, we actually advertise that the splash pad is not guaranteed for your rental.
yeah.
So we do the opposite.
Okay. Just wondering. The smoking,
I won't be
the
running
smoking
the splash
same
pad
as the
anymore.
last. Same
I'm sorry,
comment
go
as the
ahead.
last.
And make sure
The
you
smoking,
wear your appropriate
I think it's
swimming wear.
F, item F.
Diaper.
The same comment as the last. is
Excuse
to
me, I
see
don't
if
wear
it
a
can
diaper, I
be-
wear swimmers.
Okay, vehicle, okay, no more splash pad questions? Vehicle regulations in city parks. I
That's
don't
part of
know.
the violation of the penalties, which is later.
Yeah,
The next
I
part
don't
is
have any
skate.
comments on this one. But-
If we can jump to skate parks first, and then we'll come back to the violations, if that's okay.
What you wear, skate.
Skate park?
Skate parks,
Oh,
next page.
Public skate park.
11.
Yeah.
So nobody had questions
Page
on
11.
vehicle regulations?
We're gonna go back to it.
Oh,
We'll go back to it.
alright. So the skate park, I think will need to be completely revamped, I guess, depending on what we decide to do there, right? Or is this just assuming that we're gonna keep it?
I mean, I think that we know that what's there now, right?
Okay.
If, and when the skate park gets revamped, because at some point it will, at least we have this, these have been updated and we can work from there. Because I'm sure there's some language in here that may still need to be updated.
Okay.
So my question is enforcement, C. So who enforces if somebody goes to the skate park and they don't have a helmet on and they don't
I'm
have?
gonna tell you something, and it might blow your mind. So we're actually, including the JPIA, we're actually told to not supervise it.
I understand, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's unenforceable.
but we still post rules.
Okay.
That was my first job here. When I first started here back in the beginning of time, So the issue is that you can enforce it, but if somebody should fall and hurt themselves and they're not wearing their helmet, even if you're trying to enforce it, you're liable. But if you're not there, you're not liable.
Because the signs are up.
Well, it's the same thing as on your home, if you post beware of dog and your dog bites somebody and you get sued, they're gonna say you knew your dog was mean because you
Yeah.
posted the sign. So they tell you not to post the sign at your house.
Good point.
That makes my head hurt.
So I have beware of dinosaur
Oh, good, there you go.
or cat. Yeah, so I understand that.
Cause skate
Well,
park,
we know E is not enforceable. Or where's the spray paint one? No one should graffiti.
It's there.
Oh, is it here?
aren't we going to be revising the skate park to become a pickleball court or something? Didn't we talk about that at one time?
Well, it is there.
One of the things that we've done is we've asked for an assessment of the current conditions of the skate park, a professional assessment of the current conditions. So depending on what comes back, there may be some opportunities to redo or reimagine that space.
I think I don't know if it's used any, I mean, I see people in there. I don't know what they're doing in there. But there are people in there often, because when I drive by, I see them in there, but are they skating, are they doing other things? I don't know.
People go there and skate regularly.
Yeah.
You know, skating is counterculture. It's a tough thing, right? Like, they go against the norm. It's a sport that, you know, is against rules and regulations. I mean, it's part of the culture of skating, so they're interesting things, you know. None of us were here, like, even though I worked at the skate park first when it opened, none of us were here where it's put. I mean, location is key to a skate park. You know, sometimes they're in front of high schools and they're highly used. La Puente did a great job and put it in a park where it can be supervised and watched, and there's a lot of eyes on it and stuff, but ours is secluded, back in a corner, so location is a big key, but those are issues that we can't deal with now.
A lot of that is just lessons learned, you know, at the time that skate parks, West Covina skate park came in towards the beginning. And at that time, you know, the school of thought was, let's tuck it away, you know, we don't want it to be a nuisance. But people have learned, and especially those that build skate parks in cities, they've learned that that's actually not what you want to do. You want to bring them closer to the street, so that way it is visible. You want people to be able to see it, they'd be able to look in. So it's just different now, and it's one of those things, it's lessons learned, you know. It's awesome to be at the cutting edge of something or to be at the forefront, but at the same time, when you do that, you're also balancing that out with, okay, people are gonna learn from me, and sometimes that's what happens, you know, we learn. So as far as assessing the current conditions, you know, we're gonna look at, okay, does it make sense for the skate park to stay where it is, or do we need to move it out further? You know, what type of a design would make sense? So those are all the types of things that we're looking at right now when it comes to the skate park.
Could be expanded and brought closer to the street.
Yeah. It very well could.
Yeah, that would be
It very
nice.
well could. Or it could be relocated and then that area could be used for something else. I don't know. I don't know right now.
Big enough for like a futsal court. Because there we have the complex, we have the soccer complex, so we'll be complementing that. Other option.
Other issues might be funding source. I don't know how the skate park was paid for.
Right.
You know, I don't know, I'm not sure if you're aware either, so.
I don't know.
You know, depending on what the funding source was, where the money came from, you know, those are all factors that play into it as well.
Item M is missing something. Designate and.
Wasn't it a grant
It was.
they got there?
I'm pretty sure it was special
Yeah,
funding.
Was it? Yeah, because I remember Rudy was on that when they did Devil this.
Can the skate park be rented out?
Yeah, there's a fee schedule, it's on the fee schedule.
So then, yeah.
Oh, there is, okay. So is that in here? I can't find it.
It really opens at 5
It's
a.m.
kind of part of item M, but M isn't complete.
Oh,
Yeah, because if it's a rule and regulation, it would have to talk about something to the effect of if it's rented, then you can't use it. Or it's kind of closed off. And there's big events that go on there.
Yeah, they're not asking for permission.
They're just doing it, so not that we want to stop that, because I think it's a good thing in general, because
Exactly.
it's activity, but
The same type of thing, we just want to gain compliance, that's it.
yeah.
When they wanna use a park, the skating park, they don't have to have a permit?
No, if someone wants, like, if I wanted to go ride my skateboard at the skate park, I could go ride my skateboard at the
Yeah,
skate
but
park.
I mean a
But
big
if
group.
someone, like a big, no, if someone would hold an event at the skate park, they would need a permit to hold an event.
Well, why can't they, the same law that you have for the rest of the parks, why shouldn't it reflect this too? Can't we do that?
It
You-
does.
It does, we do have permits for events at the rest of the parks.
Yeah, but I mean, for the skate park,
Mhm.
do we have also permits?
Yes, that's what it talks about, written approval.
Oh, okay.
But we can, to your point, writing in the word permit makes it very clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Why do we open it at, why is it opening at 5 a.m.?
yeah, 5 a.m. I'm really surprised.
We did that because that's our park opening. Because the same guys that open the bathroom open the skate park.
Oh, they start at 5 a.m.
Start working their way around.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, so then do we do the same for 10 p.m.?
They have lights?
There are lights and the lights go off at 10. See, that gets, well, that actually, we should really put that at, it's the last thing locked up, but it's not always 10 o'clock, so I don't know how we want to word that. It is the last thing locked up, lights go off at 10.
Okay. I'm fine with leaving it. I was just wondering because that seemed kind of early, but it makes sense if that's the way things work.
In the winter, when it's dusk earlier, it closes earlier, so
Oh,
we
yeah.
probably need to look at that wording.
Violation shall constitute an infraction punishable by, so the next section is like fines.
It was interesting to me in the municipal code that we specifically spelled out fines in relation to the skate park specifically. So that said a lot about the concerns that I think the public and the council had at that time. We talked about confiscation and imprisonment of personal property at the skate park too. So that was interesting that it was
I
all
didn't
specific.
confiscate anything, and I never had a single ticket. I almost died every day, but I never gave any of that stuff out.
Maybe because it's close to the school.
Yeah, that was just very interesting.
So then,
Do we need this section?
yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
I don't think you need to put it, it's on the books, we know it's there. I don't think you need to call it out in a user guide per se. Yeah.
Okay.
Same thing with,
Confiscation and
yeah,
impoundment.
I don't think you need to put that in a user
Yeah, I
guide.
agree.
I think it was all done because the original focus, or when that park originally opened, it was staffed. Originally, there was someone there all the time. We manned every gate,
Oh, wow.
tried to keep helmets on, and it was,
How long did that last? 6
Like
months?
herding cats,
Until the
right?
budget was cut?
6 to 8 months about that. But then we were going to coalitions, everything that Roxanne stated, we were learning laws, we were learning things, and it was a risk management issue. We were finding out like, hey, we just found out really quick that being there was more risk than not being there.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so yeah, we'll remove those two, confiscation and impoundment. We could take out alcohol beverages and, oh wait, we're gonna go
We're
back?
gonna, yeah, we're gonna go back.
We're now on to
Vehicle regulations in city parks.
Let's start with that, the vehicle regulations. And then we'll go on to
I think
violations.
we're okay with that.
Yeah, I don't have any comments on that. Does
No
anyone?
comments, we're good?
Yeah, I think that one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, we're down on violations and penalty provisions.
Yeah.
So a lot of this is what is in the municipal code. The municipal code spells out what the violations and the penalties are. So I put this in here, again, I wouldn't necessarily put that in a user guide, but I put this in here more for your reference. But there are some specifics in the municipal code about damage or destruction of park property and rewards.
It should be.
Again, that's something I think I wouldn't necessarily put in a user guide, but I think it's still important to at least call it out so that you guys are aware what's there. The same thought process that we had in putting in the confiscation and the fines regarding the skate park, same thing. Again, I don't think it needs to be, my opinion, it doesn't need to be in a user guide, but.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it needs to be in there.
Okay, so the next version that you see, you won't see that in there, so I just wanna make sure you are aware.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we're leaving the damage and destruction.
No.
No, we're taking it. Okay.
Yeah.
We're taking that as far as the printed user guide, but still
Okay.
the books.
And like you were saying, all these sections we're moving could be easily referenced with the municipal code, right?
Exactly,
So.
exactly.
Okay, skate park, parks and violations, that's gonna remove.
I think, when we talk about alcoholic beverages in public parks,
That's a big one.
my feeling with this is we reference in the unlawful acts, we reference, that there's no alcohol, but we also reference in there that except by special permit only. This is the process for that special permit. I don't think it needs to be called out in the park user guide. I think if someone wanted to apply for that permit, we would just reference where they would apply, and then they would get the information when they would go to apply.
What would qualify for a special permit in the park? for
So
alcohol?
what would qualify, so let's say, and I'm gonna say the Rotary, let's say, I'm just making this up, say that the Rotary wanted to hold an event,
A beer garden.
a beer garden at Cortez Park.
Okay.
So they would require a special permit.
Okay.
And then we would also tell them you need to comply with ABC, all of that, yeah. So that's when that would come into play. I look at that as more of like a special event permit, and I would just reference that this exists and this is where you find it, and I wouldn't go any further than that in a park user
That it
guide.
can happen with.
A taste of West Covina would be a good example.
And especially if we were to put it in a park.
Right.
If we were to put it in a
We're
park.
doing that for the 4th of July thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we have for quite some time. That would be the event that it goes to. When we do the 4th of July at Cameron Park, had a beer garden.
Yeah.
Orangewood, beer garden. Cherry Blossom is another one that hasn't been at the park, but they usually have a beer garden.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it in a user guide, I would just reference.
Reference special event permit needed.
Yep. And where to go.
Okay, so that's, everyone agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Community Services Director's Authority.
That's authority. Regarding any additional regulations, to implement anything that currently exists. So if it's kind of one of those spirit and letter of the law type of things. Again, I think Palmview is a good example of that with the golf. Obviously, someone at some point said golfing in this particular space at this park was an issue. We need to sign it accordingly and exercise those powers. That's an example of that.
All it takes is one windshield.
Yeah.
Do we need to kind of look at what we're calling a director? Because I've seen in here multiple times the director's authority, and sometimes I'll see community services director authority.
That's what's in the municipal code. We would look to update that, and I would also look to update it as it would either be public services director or his or her designee. Because you don't know who that person is gonna be. It may not always be the director, it may be someone else that needs to enforce something.
There you go, yeah, that's a good thing.
And definitions is, if there is a definition for that, under definitions, city of the purpose of this document, the city of West Covina and/or community service department will be referred to as a city. So it's anybody at the city. Could be any three of these.
Okay.
So I have just a comment on the Community Services Director's authority. In relation to the skate park confiscation, impoundment, personal property, item E, it states that the City Council establishes the right to charge an impound fee. The amount of said impound fee shall be set by resolution of the City Council.
They're not gonna do
Could this item be made the responsibility of the Community Service Director? No.
Staff would not wanna do that. That you wanna protect your staff, you don't want to, that's above staff purview.
Okay, got it, all right.
Okay, so now we're moving on to number 2. So all that we talked
Hold on,
about.
Chair Torres, I'm sorry. Correct me if I'm wrong, but most fees, we get to make a recommendation on. The community services director would recommend to council in the fee schedule what they think that should be.
Right, but for an impound fee, this is specifically
Okay.
calling out
Okay.
to council only, and that they
Okay.
would set it by resolution. And because of that, I would not want staff to make a judgment call on an impound fee.
Okay,
I think it's
got it.
best that the council do that.
Okay,
So all that we discussed thus far was under conduct in public parks and public places. So all of that was conduct related. Does anyone have any sort of other things they want to bring up with respect to conduct based on anything that you've experienced, anything that you want to add in or throw out there?
And it doesn't mean that we can't come back to it later, you know?
Okay.
We're gonna clean this up, based on the conversations that we have tonight, and then we'll also start asking those questions about the language, you know, looking for different types of language through the city attorney's office for some recommendations. But we can always, if you think of something, add it later on, and again, the community's gonna have the opportunity to view it too. They're gonna come up with things, or they may have other thoughts that we didn't think of, so we can come back at some point, because it is a working document.
okay, so based on that, let's just say if, after today's meeting, we might agree to meet again. And within that time frame, so we're looking at maybe another month or so, so we can continue to sort of comment if we needed to.
Yes, I think we would need to meet sooner than a month.
Okay,
I think we want to keep this moving.
okay, so we have homework, okay, got it, all right.
Okay, athletics, facility allocation and use procedures.
So this is what we do. This is what's in the book. This is how this occurs as far as user groups coming into the fields. So again, we're putting it in this document so that people are aware. Some of it, I think as time has, while this is on the books, like some of it I think as time has gone on may have been shifted a little bit. We may need to update some of that and really talk to, I'm gonna, lean on you and really sports council for that, because you're gonna know, they're gonna know, okay, yeah, this does work, this doesn't work. But this is what's currently, written as a written document.
Yeah, I agree. I think I need to lean on the experts. Mike
Well,
and then the.
I wish, experts is, I don't know the term. I mean, as we discussed.
The user groups.
Yeah, the user groups, as we discussed the last time, and Commissioner Gutierrez has been a part of the Sports Council for quite some time. We really have to, this really has to be strong, we have to be able to really lean on this, because with all rules, people interpret things differently. And then the other major thing is just looking at this right now from a glance, primary seasons aren't primary seasons anymore. You know, that's, I know we discussed that at length last time, so don't want to go that route again, but whatever's here, we want to follow that and make sure that we are consistent and have something to fall back on.
My recommendation to you tonight, we can go through this, we can take a look at it, we can answer questions, but I would really, we want to have those discussions with the user groups and gain some feedback from them before we go any further with this. But I still wanted to put this in here so that you can see what's currently happening and ask any questions, you know, that you may have, and you might have some other considerations that we can definitely communicate that back.
Well, this is gonna be a user guide, or is it gonna be a park? Well, I guess what exactly is the intent for it? Is it gonna have to be something the public can actually understand and interpret, like a user-friendly?
Yes.
So if it's more like brochure type, you know, here's the user guide, I would say we want to minimize the amount of detail, and then include what we have to, and then refer to the municipal code for other items, but something that's very simple for them to read and to know, okay, these are the rules. And maybe contact community services for additional questions, and they could call.
The way that I disagree just a little bit. The way that I would do the final document is that we would specifically call out the sections, so that if someone has a question about a certain section, they can look to it. Like certain things, like we discussed today, that are in the municipal code that don't necessarily need to be in here, like the penalties, you know, we don't necessarily put, I agree with you 100% on that, but, you know, we want to be a little bit more transparent. You know, from time to time, we do get phone calls, actually more than time to time, we do get phone calls from organizations, other groups, or even private use looking to reserve a football field or looking to reserve a Little League field, and we can't reserve it because that space has already been allocated to our youth groups. And so what happens is, you know, we'll get asked the question, well, I don't see that anywhere, where do you have that? So that it really helps to have something that they can point to. And it also, you know, reaffirms, like, these are our processes, these are our policies, no different than any other city that has parks and allows, you know, the user groups to have those special relationships, because the thought is we want to make sure that our youth have access, you know, to those fields first. So when we have a document that we can point to, it helps us from a staffing level, but also increases that transparency. That's why I would want to include some of this detail in there.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
To piggyback on Roxanne's comments, you know, the other thing is we preach here, whether we talk, what I say is about flexibility. And just because currently we don't have any fields to rent out, excluding the Sportsplex, which isn't part of it, and excluding Maverick, but as far as our other parks, we've allocated all those fields to our youth groups. From Friendship to Del Norte, all the way through, we have allocated those. But we still need the flexibility to adjust and adapt as things change. And so if it's not written, that makes it difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important that we kind of look at ways that we can maybe improve it. One of the ideas I was just thinking of was somehow being able to accommodate people that want to rent it, right? Not necessarily denying them automatically just because there's another league using the field. Maybe there might be an option to allow it, but under certain conditions, maybe the fees that they pay go towards the league. Something where we could, because I know there are some days that the league might not be using it.
Leagues are saying they're using them all now, and money wouldn't convince them different, in my opinion.
Anything at Shadow Oak.
Leagues are using it.
Yeah, now
Are
they're
they now?
using it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, now they're using it.
We have soccer, girls softball, and football up there, and we just converted the field that's on the northeast side. We just made it big enough to accommodate 60-90, which is 60-foot pitching mound, 90-foot bases,
Oh,
which is for
my.
13 and above, because we haven't had a field for that.
Mhm.
So when Orangewood left, that was the last field we had, excluding Maverick, which is under a different agreement. So, but right now,
Everything.
yeah,
Wow.
Friendship is taking 5 days a week. Pony has it currently, and then in the fall, football's going to use it.
Mhm.
So every field is allocated to a youth league.
Glad to see our kids able to fill the parks like that.
And so when our leagues aren't in session, we are renting them out
They're in session all the time now.
all year round.
Look at this, it's all
And
right here.
I don't mean to put you on the spot,
It's okay,
Commissioner, but
yeah.
if you wouldn't mind, I think you have that perspective.
Okay, so this is just for one model part. So from January, we start our tryouts. So tryouts run from February, we start our season. Our season runs from February to May. Then May through July, we have All-Stars. And then we start winter ball in August, like end of August and
Done.
September. We go dark November, let the fields rest, we do some little work, and we start again back in January. And that's just Walmart. I don't know how little the other little leagues run, but you know, we have 500, well, just on the Mustang, Purcell field alone, there's about 120 kids throughout the week. That's just the kids. That's just one division, so 2 divisions use that field. So,
What ages are the kids?
so there's 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 use that one Purcell.
So how many seasons?
So we have a spring season and then we have winter ball.
Oh, okay.
So it's year round.
Can I ask you, are they
Oh,
all
no, sorry.
residents of West Covina?
No, not all. Because Pony's not like Little League. So you have 4 Little Leagues, right? Is that 4?
3.
Or 3 Little Leagues. So Little League, the way that they're structured, they have to live in the city. But Pony, they can live in the area, like
And-
surrounding cities. But they do have a minimum
Just-
requirement of West Covina residents.
Just to clarify that, Little Leagues do have outside residents because there's 3 Little Leagues, they are not all West Covina residents because
Okay.
boundaries go into other cities as well, just to clarify.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they opened that up. They opened it up for Pony.
If they're from another area, do they have to pay an extra fee?
No.
No? It's the same fee for residences
Right.
or outsiders?
It's about the kids.
Do we know if Del Norte is the same?
What do you mean the same?
The same schedule?
Very close. I mean, they do winter ball, they run tournaments. They go from their primary season, which starts in January. Trials for them, I think, start a little bit earlier in December. They run through, All-Stars run through July. They take 1 month off, and they're right back into winter ball.
Okay.
And all the Little Leagues do that. Tournament is usually held, Little League, everybody knows about the Little League World Series. Tournament usually is held in July, and that starts in every city, everywhere. So they work their way through the ranks, and that is usually held at Cortez Park.
Okay.
But, yeah, every league does that.
Well,
And
it's a good
just a
problem.
comment, the school fields are being used as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're jam-packed.
And yeah, like, how many kids?
So Pony has, I think, close to 500. Or just-
500?
It's the
What
most.
what percent do you think are outside the city? You don't know.
Don't put me on the spot. I don't know.
And then when
It's
it's
the, it's
soccer.
the, oh, yeah. It's the most popular league, I think, right? Walmart.
Walmart, oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
But it is down.
Yes,
All baseball's down.
Oh, yeah.
travel.
Baseball in general, I think, is just,
No, baseball's not down. Baseball's up. Leagues are down.
oh, right, yeah, because of the
So
traveling.
are they going travel ball?
See what the Dodgers do.
And do our leagues get
Okay.
first bids before the travel ball does?
Yes.
Yes, yes they do.
Slam and then bottom of the ninth.
And that's where it helps us to have everything in one spot that we can point to, because when you have those travel ball coming in, we're looking for space, like, some of them can be very aggressive, not all, but some can be very aggressive.
Well, it's a moneymaker. For them, not for the city.
Well, I think also parents are very enthusiastic about their sports, whether it's baseball or basketball or skateboarding. So, you know, it's driven by a lot of different things. But yeah.
I have a question. Soccer, what fields do they use for soccer?
Soccer is currently using Orangewood 100% of the time. Soccer does shut down for 3 months, and they renovate their fields. When I say renovate their fields, they pay for it. They pay for fencing. They lock it down, and they maintain those fields. So they play 9 months a year. They're also at Palmview. I believe they're renting the Sportsplex, and they are also at Shadow Oak.
Do they fall under West Covina also?
It's all West Covina Youth Soccer. The residency, residency is hard to track in all leagues. It's something we discuss all the time. But the thing that I have to say, there's more kids in soccer than all the other sports combined.
Yeah, there are.
You know, that's the only sport I love. That's what I'm asking.
When we're having these meetings and we're having these discussions, you know, Commissioner Gutierrez is at the meetings. I tell people straight out, soccer, whether what I think about or what I like is, the numbers say it's king. You know, so those are all things that we try to juggle and deal with.
Oh, good to know that.
So this is just a general question. So on page 14, part 2, where it says athletic facility allocations, then reading definitions, and then it goes to city participants, and then there's a statement that says leagues shall include those groups listed in section 3. So where is section 3? I'm sorry. Is it in the back?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Missing one.
I was looking for it.
Yeah, we'll bring that.
Okay, so take it out?
Yeah, we'll bring that back.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's missing?
Yeah. Actually, you know what I think it is? Let me see.
That's changed too, because sports council is there. You know, there used to be 7 little leagues. There was West Covina Youth Basketball, and those have since dissolved. So the sports council itself has gotten smaller.
Yeah.
So adding up these fees rather quickly, oh, these are penalties, not fees. What, and it's probably different for every sport, what is the general fee collected from the city, or the requirements collected from the city to have a league or a travel team?
Well, a travel
These are a
team.
penalty.
A travel team would pay league fee, or would pay rental fee, so whatever the fee schedule states for field usage, they would pay that. Our sports council members, they receive the fields in time for maintenance, yes.
Is
We
that,
just ask that they comply with certain things, provide certain documentation in order to receive that in-kind
Right.
relationship.
is that common practice with all cities?
I believe so.
Pretty common, pretty common. Where it gets a little bit squishy is that some cities are starting to put in a use fee. So they'll tag on like, okay, $10 per kid, to help pay for, some cities do. I'm not saying we do, I'm just saying, some cities, some agencies do that. And they'll call it like a maintenance use fee or something.
For our kids, I don't think we should do that. For outsiders,
We're not recommending that one way or the other.
Okay.
We're just, looking at not the requirements, if you will, and the how we do it. That's what we're looking at, but we're not recommending that. That's not what this conversation is at all.
And there's a lot of different perspectives on that. Some people feel it's a tax. You know.
How much is the fee to, for a child to play baseball?
So depending on their age.
Right.
Average is almost about 120, 130, 121, 120 to $130. But going back to charging residents and non-residents, we did do that a few years ago. Well, maybe over 10 years ago, we did tag on an extra $5 to $10 if you did not live in West Covina. But all they did was
Find out their address.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't.
I mean, it's just, no, they're gonna go around it.
I think
But
another
we
thing
did.
to consider is that we talk about the resident, we talk all this, and like I said, I live, breathe this sports council stuff in my own life and everything I do. But the world, people are commuting.
Yeah.
You know, where it used to be, you played with your peers and your neighbor. Look, people don't even go to school. Like, I don't think anybody in this room got to choose where they got to go to high school. Everybody else, moving high schools, moving areas, how things are done are different.
Going back to your question about section 3, it's user group classification, so that's
Okay,
in
that's
there.
what I thought,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's user group classifications. So no, we didn't leave it off.
This is missing the 3.
Yes.
On the list of due dates and penalties, for soccer, is there a reason we don't have the board of directors roster line item, or is that just?
For soccer?
It's on there.
It's on there.
Yeah, it's right under facility
Yeah,
use
yeah, that's it.
application.
Oh, okay. It's the only one that's
It's
mixed
different
up.
due date.
It's the same fee for all of them, or same penalty.
Well, no, I just missed
Yeah.
it because every other one has it on the second line item, but for some reason this is,
I don't know.
okay,
Soccer special.
my,
It's trying
They
to
didn't
test
sort
you.
that very well.
Yeah.
and how often do we penalize? Do we even penalize?
Every penalty I've ever given out, we've given back.
Oh. What a nice city.
So why do we even have the penalties, just for egregious
That
kind
is
of?
not smart business.
It's not business.
Our goal is our goal is compliance. Our goal is not to charge a fee or to tax or to cause any sort of harm to our league. Our goal is we just want to make sure that you can stay in compliance, that you are in compliance, so that you can continue with the benefit of having that in-kind relationship. That's what we want to do.
Yeah,
At some point, the penalties were put in place. I don't know, I can't speak to it. I guess the city always has that option, but our goal is to get everyone to comply and to help them through that process so that we can continue to serve the youth. So that's our intent.
And on a side note, we've been more successful than that than ever. As a team, we've worked together, we've made some changes, how we allocate, but we've been more compliant than ever.
Right. Right.
so I think it's a good idea to just keep them on the books.
We need the information, we need the insurance, we need the 501c3. I mean, those are things that they all need to have.
I mean,
in order.
I
The
think-
penalties.
I
Oh.
think it is
Yes.
only because you never know if you get a group or an organization. Right now, you know, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, but you don't know what the future holds. And so you never know if you get a group that's just egregiously out of line, not providing their information and doing it over and over and over again. It's not a bad idea just to keep it for that purpose,
It gives you some leverage.
if necessary, yeah. But we don't want to do that, we really don't.
I know we're working on, oh, not working on, but we already have the special needs kind of programming. Is that something we should consider in like use of the field and allowing some sort of time frame for those groups to be?
Let's go to the next slide real quick. So, what I want to talk about next time, and maybe this could fall, we can have that conversation next time too. What we're looking to talk about next time are the pavilions. You know, the reservation of the pavilions, the application process for those picnic pavilions. We want to talk about special athletic events. Do we see tournaments or friendlies as something different than the normal league play? Do we even want to touch that? We want to have those conversations next time. Talk about field maintenance schedules. We want to talk about the importance of when we do need to close fields for field maintenance and how we're going to go about doing that and communicating that to the public. And then private reservations versus large group usage. And I think that I would tie in, it's not necessarily a private reservation, but what you talked about, Commissioner or Chair Torres, about special needs, talking about group usage, different types of group usage. Okay. So I would kind of work that into that conversation. So those are the things that we hope to accomplish, that we can have those. We were going to have those conversations next time, and then in addition, bringing the working draft. Remember, this is a working draft back with some of the things that we discussed today and removing some of the portions that we discussed today as well. So I would like to have that conversation next time.
Perfect.
On that point, and then thinking just when I have downtime doing my homework.
Of course.
So I was thinking about the relationship the city has with the school district with regards to Edgewood Pool.
Okay.
And Edgewood Pool being part, I believe, I don't know what the setup is, but it seems that it's partially partnered with the city for allowing residents to swim and things of that nature. I think initially that's the way it was done. Okay. I don't know about now.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. Commissioner Munoz, the old agreement, we partnered with the school district and we maintained the pool. Okay. The city paid for the pool on their property, we maintained it, we did that. When they passed their bond and they built the new pool, discussions were had to continue that, but they were asking a pretty hefty price from us.
Oh, okay.
So we currently do not have an agreement for the pool. I think they offer swim lessons, they offer laps, they offer all those things, and we've actually asked them in the past to provide us that information to put in the Discover to make sure that the community is getting that information. Sometimes we get compliance, sometimes we don't. I haven't reached out for that information in some time, but there currently is not an agreement.
Okay, okay, got it.
We want to take a look at, we can still think we're kind of good at this part. We want to take a look at the amenities real quick. We're going to keep attaching this as we go along. I think it's a good reference point. I also think it will be something that will be very useful to us in our next conversation that we have about the pavilions and some of the other areas of the park, the amenities that each of the different parks have.
Was this updated? Or just taken off?
It's the latest version, 21.
Well, is this the one that's on the website?
Yes.
Okay.
It's interesting, there's no barbecues. We
I
took them all out.
Yeah,
I didn't bring my copy from last time that I had, but I know there was a lot of things wrong, but I can't remember right now. But that would be one comment on this, make sure that
I got you guys all coffee.
make sure that we can update it at some point and have
I have the working document, so we can.
Yeah, I think it said we had some amenity at the park that wasn't there. I can't remember which one, but. Gotta look for it.
the existing parks.
Yeah, maybe it is updated, because maybe the one on the website's old, because this one, so far I don't see any.
You might have found a special cookie in the website that linked you to something different,
Yeah, so maybe we need
like
to
an old
just
document maybe.
update the website then.
Does West Covina ever uses the sports plaques for sports for the Little League?
Football used it in the fall, for their practices. They were there, gosh.
They're there for a good chunk of time,
yeah,
2
like
months.
2 or 3 months.
West Covina American, West Covina National, and Pacific Coast Little League, because of the issue with the field for the bigger bases, they just used the field for games last week, the last 2 weeks, I believe. You know, we've offered it to the leagues, but there is a cost to it. So they do need to pay the cost to use it,
Yeah,
which is whatever what the fees are, which I believe is $65 a game. If they're having a game there, they pay the $65.
So who's managing that now?
No,
The
I
city,
I'm not the city.
the city
no.
does. The city does.
Not your department?
It's in
Yeah,
our
it is
department,
our
it's our department, and we work together and we help on it. Rob, our deputy director, he's in charge of field maintenance, and he does an excellent job. I mean, he's a very good resource for the leagues, for the sportsplex. He does that, and then we have Steve Zaragoza, who's the coordinator, who manages the day-to-day, the rentals, the
schedule.
leagues, stuff like that.
And what did they do before we had to do it, before when it was leased out? Where were these people pulled from?
What do you mean? Who was going up there?
Yeah,
What was-
well, it was managed by a private company before.
Right, so,
So
go ahead.
where were these employees when it was managed by somebody else?
They weren't
They didn't
there.
exist.
Oh, so we hired them to manage this, okay.
They weren't there.
So it's open now every day? Is
Yes,
it?
ma'am.
Oh, it's open every day?
Yeah, I believe they have adult softball leagues, they have soccer up there, they have baseball games, they have tournaments on the weekends, and they're running girls softball, adult softball, boys baseball, pretty much all age groups from 8 years old to 14. I don't think they're doing older than 14, but up to 14. So there's quite a bit of activity up there.
Did they open the excuse me, that restaurant up there, or is it still
No.
closed?
The restaurants the restaurant spaces are not activated at this time. City's going to be releasing an RFP to solicit some interest.
Oh.
Is it profitable?
I think it's too soon to tell.
Too soon.
I believe I can make it profitable.
You want to take over?
No. I live at sportsplexes, and I'm good. I spend enough time there.
You know, he passed away, my brother. I come from a little town, but he was very active with the youth on baseball. And they just named a park on his name.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
If we can take some time to look at our calendars to set the next.
Before we go any farther, I have to say, a week from today, I am leaving town for almost 2 months. So,
Where are we going?
we just bought a brand new fifth wheel, and we're hitting the road. We were gonna do it when my husband retired and COVID hit. And we've been planning this for 5 years, and we have just finally gotten to where we could do it. And we're taking our cat with us. She's 18 years old and never been out of the house. And we took her a couple weeks ago and she loved it. So we feel confident taking her, and I do plan to be back by the 1st of July because of the July stuff at the Sportsplex and all. So I apologize, I didn't know this was gonna happen
That's okay.
when we started planning.
No, it's okay.
Where are you headed?
We're headed, well, first graduation at University of Arizona for my granddaughter. Then from there, we're going to Texas, up Texas, visiting family. Arkansas to, my niece is on a scholarship for soccer at Central Arkansas University. So we're gonna go there and take her out to lunch. Then we go up to Missouri to visit a cousin and my brother-in-law in Dubuque, Iowa, another cousin in Racine, Wisconsin, and then we're done. We turn left and we go to the Badlands and we go to Yellowstone and Mount Rushmore and all that good stuff and work our way home.
That will be a nice job.
Thank you. Yeah, so,
That's
but
amazing.
I'm sorry, I can't be here, kinda.
In spirit.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Want to take a look at either the 17th or the 24th?
Of May.
I'm not going to be here on the 17th.
Okay.
Should we send out a poll for both days?
Yeah, we can send, let's do that. We'll send out a poll for both days.
I'm not here the 17th, I can tell
So
you.
maybe the 24th?
Okay.
And 17th and the 24th,
I won't
is
be here
there?
on the 24th either.
Send out a poll. Okay. We'll send out a poll.
Yeah, thank you.
We're still meeting on the 9th, right?
We're still meeting on the 9th.
Okay.
Just a regular meeting on the 9th.
I will be here for that.
Yes, that's a regular meeting.
Okay, so I did finally catch on this thing, I was looking at it. So the one thing I caught was that Cameron Park hasn't marked as a playground.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that.
So that might have been before we put a playground there? Not sure.
What did you say, there's a what?
Forgot to mark on the playground.
Oh.
Yeah. And then, I don't know if we need to have that barbecues column, but if we do, then I know there's a lot of parks that have barbecues.
I think I put it there to
Did we take the
inspect to see
barbecues
which
out?
ones.
We are taking them out.
You are.
It depends. It depends. Like, at Orangewood, it hasn't been an issue, and we have a newer style and the barbecue, but at some of the other parks, it's led to some camping, overnight staying, and things like that, so it's been on a case-by-case basis.
Is that the reason you're removing them?
And just they're
Yes, ma'am.
old and deteriorated.
Yeah.
I guess it's still last month.
Is there something, and I didn't see it, is there something that says you cannot bring your own barbecue?
I think
I
so,
would-
right?
No open flame.
No open flames, yeah.
Well, the barbecue's not an open flame.
Propane, is. If it's charcoal,
I think the ordinance states charcoal, but I'll look at it.
Okay.
But it has to be extinguished before leaving the park.
And then we have picnic tables at Orangewood.
There are picnic tables in Orange.
There's
The
the
soccer-
complex.
At both, I think, right?
Yeah, and there are some in that pavilion that's in front of the skate park, you're right.
And then Palmview, we have a soccer field. And that's it.
All right.
Cause I think we just put that soccer field in a few years ago.
Did you say they were playing soccer at Shadow Oak?
yeah,
Because it doesn't show a soccer field at Shadow Oak.
It's open field.
It's just an open space.
Just, they just put the.
we used to have cricket at Shadow.
And what?
Cricket. We had cricket there for a long time. It's pretty
Really?
cool to watch.
Yeah, it was there.
Uh-huh.
They
Well,
played
you live
every-
closer to it than I
I
do.
think every Sunday.
Was it a private league or was it
It
city?
was a
run?
rental. They came, rented it, it was a long-standing rental for a long, for a good period of time. And actually, I think it's one of the things that did come back from COVID.
Going back to the meetings, are they going to be at 7 or 6?
For the special meetings?
Uh-huh.
We like them at 6. The reason we did it at 7 today was because if anyone wanted to go downstairs and visit the small business expo. We kept running into meetings, like there was a budget meeting, there was this, that, and we were trying to make sure that we didn't conflict as much as we could. The reason it was 7 o'clock tonight is because we thought, well, if if someone wanted to go to the small business, you know, they could go for an hour and then attend this.
Yeah.
You should have told us. I forgot to go.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
You missed
know
all the
it's-
sweets.
Robert, you missed that on the calendar?
No, I know, Deb sent it out, so I just forgot, but
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why tonight was different.
were you guys able to go?
I went at the very beginning.
Oh, okay. Was it well,
They
probably not
had,
bad.
what the staff downstairs shared with me is that they had 70 RSVP'd.
Awesome.
Yeah,
There
That's
was
nice.
several when we went.
that's
It
amazing.
was when we went down.
Yeah,
It's cool.
super cool. Super cool. Right. Do you wanna-
Perfect. So we will send out a poll, I guess, for the next special meeting.
Yeah, and then, tomorrow morning.
All right. Well, with that, we finished a little early. 5 minutes
4
early.
minutes. 4?
Oh, no, actually, no, 2 minutes.
Oh,
early.
2, oh, okay, okay.
All right, so we'll adjourn at 8:58. Thank you.
Okay.
I mentioned that, we send you over